Welcome back to Season 3 of Theo Thoughts.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. I'm Jordan Peternell.
I'm Judson Page. It's been a nice little winter, Christmas, New Year's break, and we're in 2024 already. Still writing 23 on some things.
Holy cow. Judd and I are just sitting down here, being big boys, drinking our coffee together. And we look beside us to Judd's right and to my left. And, oh, yours is hot chocolate?
I don't drink coffee.
What is it?
Hot chocolate.
Okay. Well, it was in a coffee cup, so forgive me.
Anywho.
And he has the cardboard heat protector thing that has beans on it. So I guess you can forgive my sympathy.
I'm still a big boy.
To my left, his right, we have a plant that's been here from the very beginning that's starting to wither away. And it's a little disappointing. It's a peace lily that just once was on a chair. Is now just
it's
sitting
still
on
your
the floor.
chair for just a little bit.
Yeah. I had to move. But I was willing to give it up because the peace lily did what it was supposed to do and brought us peace. But anyway, season 3. How crazy is that?
It's awesome. I hope you guys all enjoyed our Advent series and that little Christmas message there at the end. And we've heard a lot of really great things about what you like about season 2, and we're really excited for all the plans that we're going to have. We're going to have a similar amount of episodes for season 3 as we did for season 2, and yeah, we're just really excited to be back here. This is just the end of the second week of classes for us, so yeah.
Yes, sir. And also, I wanted to give a quick shout out to my fiance's dad.
Woo!
So I know that you're going to be listening to this, Mike. And for those who don't know, his name is Mike McKee. And my Christmas present over Christmas was 2 Theo Thoughts t-shirts for me and Judson here. So if you're an avid listener and you know who we are and what we look like, pay attention. You'll see us wearing some of these. And I mean, if you guys are interested, maybe we can look into something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So
100%.
Anyway.
But yeah, also, he just kind of nonchalantly said his fiance's dad to imply that he got engaged over winter break.
Very true.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, I was kind of leaving a trail of breadcrumbs.
He was. Yeah, if you follow along to some of our last episodes, you can see Jordan sprinkling some things. I remember at one point he said, "Oh yeah, and there's a surprise or something coming for next time."
Yeah,
like you can kind of piece the bits together. But now it's weird. He's not going to be saying girlfriend anymore. He's going to be saying fiance.
I still say girlfriend.
So fancy.
It's something I got to work through. Yep.
August 3rd.
So, and by the way, another thing. I don't know if you guys know this, and you definitely don't, but Judson's actually one of my groomsmen, too.
Yes,
I asked him cordially over the old iMessage. So.
Yeah. All right. So, starting off season 3 with a banger. In the world today, I mean, Jesus tells us to be in the world, not of it. But there are a lot of different messages that are absorbed by the public, which when we think of non-Christian things, we think of secular, and Christian being non-secular. But there are actually quite a lot of Christian themes in secular media that are either intentional or unintentional. Like if I think of intentional, I think of movies like Courageous or like other movies by the Kendrick brothers,
of course,
where it's intentional Christian messages and they're saying it in the movies. But then there are other forms of media and other movies as well that are not saying that they're Christian, but some of the messages that they are communicating align with Christian themes and teachings.
Of course. And this isn't just, I think we've talked before about there's a psychological theory about how certain plot devices in movies and books and any sort of media TV show a lot of time derive from the same story, like the prodigal son and the mischievous brother and all of these things. We're talking a little bit more on the outside of that. Not as much plot devices, but themes themselves. Things that you can be like, oh, hey. And then the Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he points at it while he's sitting in the chair.
Yeah, that one.
So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. Now, you've heard us make our fair share of movie references. Lord of the Rings, Narnia, most recently Frozen.
Yes.
But even all of these different franchises, movies and books, they are communicating actual real themes. Like, so when we talked in our Advent episode about love, Jordan brought up the example of love that is portrayed in Frozen between Anna and Elsa. And it's a really cool form of unconditional agape love that we were talking about, of that just pure sacrificial doing anything regardless of what has happened. And that is really cool. But again, Frozen is a kids Disney movie set back in medieval times about a ice princess. So you think, what does that have to do with Christianity? But
Mhm.
it shows that there are some messages in the secular world that are, especially when you think that kid, like my niece, I can't tell you how many times I love my niece so much, don't get the wrong idea, but I have sat through so many Frozen watchings. Maybe that says how much I love her.
Good
Shout
for
out,
you,
love you.
Judson.
Uh, but anyway, it shows that there are good messages still being, to the kids and to a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, if you wanna say still, you gotta remember that it came out, like, 11 years
Oh
ago or
my gosh,
something.
I remember, yeah, it was like 4th or 5th grade. That was crazy.
It was absurd.
Yeah, and
So,
we've also quoted many times Narnia, which written by C.S. Lewis, who is a Christian author who's written other things before, and the story is a beautiful analogy of the Christ story, kind
of
of.
of course, and I would also like to put that, the Narnia movies, maybe not so much as the books, but I would say the Lord of the Rings movies and the
Mm,
books because they are interdependent upon one another. You can enjoy one without the other, but I cannot enjoy the 2nd and 3rd Narnia movie. So,
I feel you. I
it's just a
feel you.
fan thing.
I remember my mom and I we read through the entire Narnia series when I was just a wee lad, and those books, those were banging.
Oh,
I
for
still, I
sure.
mean, I had watched the movies first, so I'm still, I kind of like the movies still, especially the first one. The first one is
The
really
first
good.
one has an extended edition that is muy bueno.
Yes. Yeah, it's really good. But, just communicating themes, I mean, it's directly taken kinda like from Aslan is the Christ figure, and,
Yeah,
the White Witch is the devil figure, and then it literally calls them sons of Adam and daughters of Eve. So, I mean, that's straight Bible reference right there.
of course.
But, it's talking about messages of, sacrifice for others, forgiveness, of friendship and familyhood, and I mean, the whole movie is chock full of biblical themed references.
Not even to mention, like, one of my favorite examples, and I actually have this on a T-shirt, is, from the book The Silver Chair, and I
That's a
had
good one.
I had the benefit of over the interterm process, like, a couple days, I had to go to St. Louis for a class,
Mhm.
and, it was boring, and I asked teacher, I was like, "Hey, can I just go, like, start reading space novels off of your bookshelf?" And she was like, "Yeah, go for it, you gotta be here all day." So I went over there and I found The Silver Chair. So
Nice.
that was my number one to read, man. And I remember looking forward because I've read it probably 8 or 9 times. But and the reread ability of these are incredible. It's definitely one that I would say you should go read. But there is a point in the movie, sorry, book. I gotta correct myself. Book. There's a point in the book where essentially the Narnians are trying to be convinced of the fact that there is no Narnia,
Mm,
and one of the characters says he's going to be, I am on Aslan's side, even if there is no Aslan to lead it. And I'm going to live as a Narnian, even if there isn't any Narnia, which
yeah,
is beautiful
really,
because
yeah,
you put that into the context of this life. And I think that's what C.S. Lewis did.
yeah,
This witch within the story, and obviously go read it yourself, tries to convince the two children, the prince and the Marshwiggle, that Narnia never existed and their reality is only condensed to what they can see right there,
mhm,
which is a common argument in this
yeah,
world, right? When
yeah,
especially people who lack faith will say like, and I'm not discounting science whatsoever. I think it works with scripture beautifully, but my point is a lot of people say like you can't go believing in fairy tales and all of this
right,
mystical magical stuff, but he's saying it doesn't matter to me because it
right,
seems like the things that you say are real are a lot less important than the ones
mhm,
we do.
right,
So anyway, that's Narnia.
yeah, yeah. Narnia, just great book series, great first movie,
I have to protect
highly
myself
recommend.
because I can go on and on and on and on and on.
And then, of course, Lord of the Rings. Those are movies that I can rewatch over and over and over and never get tired.
It's the best movie trilogy of all time.
It's pretty up there. It's pretty up there on my list. But it's got really great stories of friendship and bonds between people can be, closer than blood sometimes. And it's also just the journey of it, like the resiliency of following Jesus, or like choosing the good road, or taking the ring to Mordor, can be difficult sometimes, but the Eagles will come get us.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's this is my catchphrase to people who tell me about it, but I say I think it's really funny or I think it's interesting. A lot of people catch me saying that, but I'm going to say it right now. I think it's funny. I've heard that Tolkien, the author of the books, who had obviously huge inspiration into the films as well, said that it wasn't supposed to be an allegory. And I said, buddy, then you weren't paying attention. Because if it wasn't supposed to be an allegory, then there's so many thematic events. Like, think about it. You pick the smallest and most feeble character within the entire like legendarium, right? To
Yeah.
carry the biggest burden.
Hmm.
So tell me that isn't like the average Joe outside
Right.
carrying the weight of his own sin every single day, all the
Yeah.
way to Mordor, and he has a helper there with him. Like,
Hmm.
I think so. My favorite character in the story is Sam, and I think
Yeah.
that Sam represents Jesus often.
Mm, yeah.
But I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I think you could probably see it too.
Oh no, yeah, I definitely see it just as that. I really think of when when Gollum starts coming along, and Sam and Gollum, they're button heads,
Of course.
and Gollum kind of gets his influence over on Frodo for a bit, and then Frodo just tells Sam to go away, and it was a really painful scene, because you think, bro, how are you telling your best friend who's been sticking alongside you to just go away? Like, what? Just go back to the Shire just now? Like, what? And so Sam starts going away, but then he's like, hold up, no, I'm going after you.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing, the same way Jesus is with us. We may tell him that we don't want him sometimes, but he's just like, no, I'm coming after you. And yeah, and still being that, saving grace in the end of reaching his hand out to help Frodo back up after he lost a finger, which that scene always, that like made me wriggle and give me the heebie jeebies when I was younger, when he took his like broken finger and grabbed it on the hand. I was just like,
His
ah!
missing finger got bitten
Yeah,
off.
his missing
Yeah.
finger.
It's for sure because like Frodo betrayed Sam twice.
Yeah,
And maybe you could kind of look at it as like the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
you'd never, except Frodo didn't know which was which.
right.
He knew that he could trust Sam, but he took such advantage of him in just like being the level head.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, I think that this journey takes more than just a level head. It
Yeah.
takes a little bit of the crazy in me to get rid of that. And that crazy in him was Gollum. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's maybe one of the thematic elements that Tolkien was playing around with is the reality that like Gollum wasn't, and it's said in the movie that Gollum wasn't very different from a hobbit once. He
Right.
was one of the river folk,
Yeah.
right? And it shows you at the beginning of the third
Mm-hmm.
movie that he strangles one of the other
Smeagol,
guys.
Smeagol, Smeagol strangled Deagle. Give me a tongue
Yeah,
twister.
that's a little confusing. So thanks Tolkien for that too. But to get one of that, and that's what you can turn into. And he's
Yeah.
like trying to find his river. They're in the volcanic Mount Doom, ready to get rid of it. Sam's like, just throw it in. Like, we've made it all the way
Yeah.
here. Just throw it in. And then he doesn't.
Yeah.
He betrays him for the second time, but yet
Yep.
Sam is still there.
Yep.
Still there.
Yeah, and I
After
also
carrying him up the
I know, I
mountain
was just about
too.
to say that, of just like, I can't carry this for you, but I can carry you. Like, oh my gosh. I mean, that's just Jesus right there. Just like, I got you. Like how Jesus, carried the cross, which is the literal weight of the world. And I mean, Sam carrying Frodo, holding something that is the greatest, burden in the world.
Yep.
It's chef's kiss.
Of course, of
Beautiful.
course. And that's another thing, and we can get into that forever. So, drawing the parallel between Sam and Jesus, you
Yeah.
really could, but like the dialogue leading up to that point was them falling on the ground in front of the like in the barren land of
Oh
Mordor,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like they say it's like a in the book say it's like a frozen desert because
Mm,
it's freezing. And these two
right.
they've like thrown off all of their
Their armor.
gear. They have
Yeah.
nothing. They don't
Yep.
have any water left.
Nope.
Frodo in the movie has like marks on his neck from his chain
Yeah.
weighing him down the closer that they
Right.
get to Mount Doom. And Sam actually retrieved the ring for Frodo after Shelob's lair,
Yeah.
and then like gave it to him. Sam was never affected by the power of the ring.
Right.
He gave it to him.
Yeah.
And then whenever they get to the mountain, like we said, he said, "Well, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you."
Yeah.
And carries him up the mountain
Mhm.
until Smeagol shows back up. But
Yep.
if you've never seen the movie, I suppose, I mean, it's been like 20
Yeah,
years.
if you haven't seen it and you're gonna be mad, they're like, "Oh, spoilers." It's older than both Jordan and I, so
That's true. Yeah. I think
anyway,
the third movie came
yeah,
out in like '03.
maybe.
So the
Yeah.
trilogy, or I guess the first two are older than us, but
Yeah.
we caught up.
Mhm. Yeah. So Lord of the Rings, beautiful allegory, and I love that connection of Frodo. I mean, sometimes you can think of maybe Frodo like Peter sometimes. I mean, who else denied Jesus a couple times before? Got it right.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's not even to mention the other side characters, but
Oh, yeah, for
we can
sure.
get into that at a different time.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have a Lord of the Rings episode.
Perhaps. That'd be fun.
Yeah. So, some other secular things. One of my other top favorite movies, Hacksaw Ridge with Andrew Garfield. It can be a hard movie to watch, but it is beautiful. Basically, for those who haven't seen it, excuse me, Hacksaw Ridge, based on this boy who really became a man, and was he wanted to fight he wanted to fight, it was World War II, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, World War II. He wanted to fight in World War II after he saw what was going on in his town, but he was raised Christian and under the commandment, "Thou shalt not kill." And he really took that to heart. And he had a lot of troubles at home, especially with his father. Had some times of abuse, and his brother also got uh, signed up to go signed up to fight just a little bit before Desmond. That's his name, Desmond Doss. This is also, yeah, true story, but they made a movie about it. Before Desmond decided that he wanted to enlist, and through army training, he would not even touch a rifle. But part of completing army training was to pass this. But his father, who had been abusive and told him not to go and all of this, he came through and he helped Desmond out. And he eventually went on to the Battle of Hacksaw Ridge, and he saved dozens and dozens of soldiers single handedly. And it is just an amazing story. And he wasn't even carrying a gun.
No.
And it's it's just an incredible story, an incredible movie about sacrifice. And as he was saving soldiers, he just said, "Lord, just help me get one more." And he just kept on saying that over and over. And it's just an incredible story of conviction, of strength, resilience, and just trusting in God for protection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that the crux of that movie is, so so the ridge itself, the reason the movie is called Hacksaw Ridge is because there was this big cliff
Yeah.
that the Marines on the island, I think it was Okinawa.
Uncertain.
Okay, but they had to climb up it, and whenever they got to the top, they had to move like through all this entrenched, and they had like
Yeah.
their navy firing out from. So they had all of
Right.
these trenches and underground bunkers that the Japanese were in, and they
Yeah.
kept going up and pushing the Japanese back, and then getting pushed back down the ridge and having to climb up, and it was a bloodbath.
Yeah.
And the Japanese weren't exactly peaceful winners, I would say. Like if they caught you and you were injured, like you were dead. They
Yeah.
weren't I can't think of the word. Merciful.
Merciful.
There it is,
Yeah.
merciful. So there's a point in the movie which really just hits home. And I think Andrew Garfield did a fantastic job with his portrayal.
Yeah.
But he's up on top, and he has gone through all of this. Like Judson said, he followed his faith to a T, never
Mhm.
touched a weapon ever.
Yep.
Went through boot camp, was beaten in boot camp to make an
Yeah, by
example
his
of.
fellow army mates in training. They beat him up because their sergeant was, kind of giving them some punishments because of Desmond. And I mean, all that pent up rage about that, they beat him up, and he had an opportunity to leave, to just, go back home. And the sergeant was like, "It's okay. There's no shame in this." He was just like, well, I got duty. I got duty in the morning, so I
Yeah.
can't do that, sir.
He's like, well, then can you at least identify the men in this cabin and your troop who hit you? He's like,
I'm
I
a
don't know.
I'm a hard sleep.
I
I'm
sleep
a
pretty
hard sleeper,
hard.
man.
So anyway, my point was, whenever he's up on the ridge, the Japanese are pushing the United States Marine Corps back down, and everyone is dying around him, and he survives. He manages to stay away and
Yeah.
hide, and then he hears the bombs going off from the airstrike that was called in a terrible time,
Yeah.
and from the water at least. That they
Hmm.
were firing their cannons from the water in their big ships, and he said, "Why can't I hear you, God?" He said, what do you want me to do? Why
Yeah.
can't I hear you?" And then all of a sudden the shells stopped. And then he heard like the screams of his fellow American men
Yeah.
wounded. And he goes, "I hear you."
Yeah.
And then he goes
Oh,
one by one and lowers men
yeah.
traveling. Oh, and it's the same men who beat him.
I
It's the
know, it's
same
crazy. He
men
also
who
lowered he also so he was a combat medic, that's what he wanted to do, and he actually also saved and let down a couple Japanese soldiers as
they didn't
well.
make it though, according
Mm,
to the movie.
no, no, maybe when they got down there, the other soldiers may not have been as merciful as Desmond Doss,
Yeah,
but still the act of him even choosing to do that when, these guys have been killing all of his friends, he's just like, "Hey, sometimes a life is a life,
of
got
course.
to save it."
And it did. So it's astounding to me how well the movie did, despite its such obvious Christian message.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of war movies. Like you can name a lot
Mhm.
of war movies, like The
Yeah.
Patriot, We Were Soldiers, The Last of the Mohicans.
Yep.
I love The Last Samurai, but I think that's a little more on the fictional side. What are some more, Judd?
Uh,
Saving Private Ryan.
yep.
Um,
I haven't been watching a lot of war movies recently.
well, there's a lot of them. Okay,
Yes.
and I mean, like I could pull up a list, but I'm not really interested. My point is, Hacksaw Ridge is the best war movie I've seen.
It's pretty it's amazing. But yeah, I also like that because this was a big budget movie as well. I mean, Andrew Garfield's a really big name, and
You're
it
right.
had other big names in there too. And for them to just so clearly also portray, you know, a Christian man holding a conviction, and that conviction, that trust in God shining through and protecting him. I thought that was just amazing. I'm like, okay, Hollywood, this is a good move. This is a really cool thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, because it is a really amazing story in just in World War II in general. Like, people know, before the movie was made, people knew about Hacksaw Ridge and
Yep.
Desmond Doss because it's amazing.
And at the very end of the movie, it really is just an inspirational story. I would tell
Yeah.
you listeners to go watch it. But at the end of the movie, um, everyone ends up getting pushed back down. That's why Desmond had to save them.
Yeah.
And one of his better friends, who was his enemy in the very beginning of boot
Mhm.
camp, had passed away, and he went as his last person to go get him and bring him down. It's just his body, and
Yeah.
his body actually saved Desmond. But I'll let you figure that one out. The next morning, they went up, and Desmond went up with them,
Mhm.
despite being up for like 2
Yeah, he had
days
came down
and getting
and
like 40 some people, like lowering them. His hands were
right.
destroyed,
Oh
like
my
lowering them by
gosh.
a rope that he created, not of, by
Yeah.
the way. And afterwards, the sergeant, who like was the one who orchestrated all of like the beatings and the extra work because he was a
Yeah.
conscientious objector at boot camp,
Right.
said to his general, the one who's like, "Hey, why aren't your boys up there yet? Like, you're the one in charge of the attack." And it's like, "Sir, Desmond's not done praying."
Yeah, they just waited for him
It's
to
like,
finish praying.
oh my
It's amazing.
goodness.
Also, just that story of, I mean, just when somebody having that kind of faith in God that is just so like evident that all the soldiers were like, "Phew, I'm not going up there until Desmond's done praying."
Yeah.
Like, I dare not. After that, no.
Based upon what this boy has done.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, we could just go on and on, but there's a point in the movie where there's this character they call Hollywood. He's supposed to be
Yeah.
like this handsome, like macho guy at boot camp, but whenever
Yeah.
he gets into the battle, he's a coward,
Mm.
and like he gets hurt, and like his jawline gets like messed up. Funny enough, 'cause,
Yeah.
he got the Mewing King, I guess,
Yeah.
but uh, he's in the infirmary, and these medics are like, "Where the heck are all these people coming from? How are they getting lowered from Hacksaw? Like, that should be a bloodbath. The
Right.
Japanese aren't
Yeah,
merciful."
they're looking and just like, "I thought you were
And
dead, man."
Hollywood is talking to Doss's drill sergeant
Yeah.
and the overall commander of that boot camp, which is the
Yeah.
one who was leading the attack
Yeah.
with their troop and the company. He's like, "It's Doss. Doss is the one." And he's like, "Doss the
Anyone
coward,
Yeah. And just like,
lowering all
"Anyone."
of these men by himself."
Yeah. Just like, "Anyone else?" "No, just Doss." And I can't imagine what that guy must have thought. And then afterwards, when Doss came down, I mean, he told him just like, "What you did, that I mean," and he apologized and, said just, "What you did is, like, truly amazing." And then because he was the one that was trying to, get him in prison, like, for, not following
That's true.
through with
Dude
the
missed his
orders.
wedding because he was a conscientious objector.
Yeah, and this guy was part of the one who's saying just like, "If you don't do this, then, you know, prison is what you're looking at." And then he was telling his commanding officer just like, "Nah, we're gonna wait until Desmond's done praying."
Yeah. And
But
it's
yeah,
such a
truly
beautiful
amazing movie.
story.
Highly recommend.
I'm starting to realize that we're maybe just like giving out the plot of the movie rather than
Well,
just
I mean,
like,
some of these, like, this was an actual recorded event in history.
yeah,
And in in our defense, if a movie has been out for a bit,
I think
like
2014 or 2017 or something like that.
2016, I
Okay.
mean, come on, 8 years.
Yeah,
Eight
that's
years. If you
true.
haven't seen it, that's it's a little on you.
Judd Kidd's born in 2016 or 8.
Don't I know. I've got a niece who is about, like, in a few days, she's gonna turn 12. And that just feels
So she was born 2012.
wrong.
Yeah.
And then I got a nephew also who's 9. He's about to get double digits. Yeah, doesn't feel right.
Do you think in Romans, whenever Paul talks about how like the majesty of our Lord is shown throughout the majesty of nature,
Mhm.
so that mankind is without excuse, do you think that the film industry is counted in that?
I think I think that nature can honestly just be a reference to what is around us. So film being included, media being included, like, part of the belief in God is being it like there's certain things that to him are considered like, this is so obvious, like, I'm showing you this, like, look around you, like, so look in nature, look at all of this other life that is created and how they're all connected. Or, look at me, I can even shine through in media. I can shine through in movies, in books, in people, in songs, in all these things, and it's so evident. And even just in people's gifts that they have, that they are able to use, to, grow the kingdom. Like, another one that got on this list, Amy Grant, who she is a very popular artist. If our generation doesn't know, your parents definitely do.
Yeah.
But Amy Grant, very popular Christian artist, and she also wrote secular songs to appeal and bring in people of the secular crowd in hopes that they would also listen to her Christian music, which was true. Like, and this it was a really cool thing to see a Christian artist write secular songs to bring in more people. It's like sometimes we as Christians will kind of stick to our bubble, and we get when we hear that in the world, not of it, we really think, oh, no association of the world. But sometimes it can cut us off from other people of when it comes to engaging with others, because not everybody is going to respond to just like, hey, I love Jesus, do you love Jesus, this is how we should do things. Not everybody's going to respond to that. And so engaging them like in stages can be really good for helping somebody find their way towards Jesus. Because sometimes it starts as, I'm gonna meet you and we're friends. Maybe they're not a Christ follower and I am. I don't have to slam it in their face the very first time I meet them. It can be a gradual change, or like, hey, there's this artist who's released some music, check it out. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'll start listening to it. And then they start asking more questions like, hey, does this person have any other music? Yes, they do. Here's a couple other different songs. And it can be gradual progression, or even like we've talked about books or movies. Like, yeah, here's some books. Here's Lord of the Rings, and just like, oh yeah, here's another one, The Shack, or here's another one, The Chronicles of Narnia, and it can be in stages. And so I think it's really cool to take advantage of like the slow introduction, the subtleness of things. Because another time I think of subtle, well, quote unquote subtle, not subtle, Mr. Rogers from Mr. Rogers'
Of
Neighborhood.
course.
He, I mean, there's a painting in Hood Hall of Mr. Rogers with like a saint halo on him, which is really cool because he was truly a really great man who spoke amazing messages to many kids. But what not many people know was that he was a practicing Christian, and his messages aligned like perfectly with Christian teachings and scripture, but he did it in a way that wasn't slamming it down your throat in your face.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big difference. I wish I knew a little bit more about Mr. Rogers
Mm,
in that sense, but I was gonna say that demographic is a really interesting thing,
yeah. Yeah.
and I find that now, especially thinking about it, all of these movies, and I'm thinking back to Disney movies. We already talked about Frozen, but I'll even go as far as like Lion King
Yeah.
and Tangled. These movie producers and directors are like, "Oh, I have a brilliant idea.
Mm.
Let's do this," and then you're like, "Hey." Leonardo
Yeah.
DiCaprio point right there, and you find yourself looking at a Christian theme,
Yeah.
right? Lion King is in the theme. Obviously, it's Mufasa, but he lives in you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a song from the second movie called "He Lives in You," and if you listen to that, man, I could believe it'd be played on Sundays.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
just the theme of like he kind of guides our path, and he is there with us. So
Right.
it's different in the fact like it's his father, it's Simba's father,
Yeah.
Mufasa, but like God was Jesus' father, you
Yeah.
know? Simba isn't Jesus by any means, but
No, but still that subtle reference, that tie, it's it's really great. And but even as we were just saying before, God showing God's self in everything, in nature, in media, in movies, and it can even be sometimes until after somebody else points it out that we take notice of, just like, oh yeah, I guess that does kind of line up, or like, oh yeah, I guess that does sound a lot like that. Because like even for people who aren't Christians, many of Jesus' teachings, even other religions, say that Jesus gave good messages. I mean, his message just in general of love, like, that's most everybody in the world can agree that we should show love and kindness to others.
absolutely.
And so even every time that shows up, that's a good thing. That's a great
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Love is always the focus of
Yeah.
religion, and if it isn't, then it might be a cult
Right.
instead. But typically I don't like whenever other religions, and boy, if we gotten into this, when other religions just say that Jesus was a good prophet,
Mm.
typically I don't like that because like have you heard what the man talks about? Like you're gonna ignore everything else he says,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah, it
and
can get a bit frustrating.
yeah, because like if you believe just the fact that he says to love one another, like that's one thing he said. Like the whole point of his
Right.
entire ministry was that he's the son of God
Yeah.
and that he
Yeah, when you pick and choose.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you good.
We've been over that before. We're down that rabbit hole.
uh Another one I really like, it's a book and a movie. I first read the book, The Giver, which is a set in a future dystopia where everyone is genetically the same, and then they are given tasks, uh, occupations to serve their community. They can't see color. They can only see in black and white, as to not add any further divisiveness. Uh, and there is this role in the community, a special role called the receiver of memory, where they hold the memory or wisdom of like all of humanity, kind of. And they use that to give wisdom to the elder council in whenever they need. wisdom, I guess. And the main character, Jonas, he is chosen to become the next receiver of memory. And so then there's the previous receiver, who is now called the giver, who gives Jonas these memories. And as he gives him these memories, his eyes literally open up. He starts to see color. He sees animals. He sees these uh, huge expressions of human emotion that have been silenced now, and he's questioning everything. And part of the key thing is, I mean, another message of love. Like towards the end of the movie, Jonas is rebelling against the community, and he is saying, okay, I'm going to travel far away so that these memories can pass beyond this border, so that everybody can feel this, what it's really supposed to be like. And at the end, the giver is arguing that just like there is no love in you, and he's saying this to the chief elder, who of course is saying that, no, we can't have the memories come back, like this is how it is now. But once those memories escape, everybody's filled and their eyes are opened, and they are just witnessing this amazing love. And so it shows the sacrifice of Jonas and the understanding of like, no, we can't keep this hidden. Like I could just go along with what everybody is saying, but he doesn't. And it's, I really like the story of the giver. I also kind of like some dystopian stories sometimes.
Very, very popular in the 2010s for sure.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, I think at the very basis of this conversation, you find that the feel good movies, or rather, I'll say this: I think that the Lord designed human beings to resonate well with certain themes
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
because modern society has made us so numb to self-serving and to, like all the regular themes, like the damsel in distress and all
Yeah.
these, so that whenever you see something that is like the ones that we've mentioned, like these movies that we're talking about,
Mhm.
typically what we're referring to are massive pop culture phenomena.
Yeah.
Massive.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings won 27 Academy Awards
Oh,
among
yeah.
3 movies.
Yeah.
Narnia is one of the most popular children's book series of all time.
Right.
Hacksaw Ridge is one of the highest grossing war movies of all time. The
Yep.
Lion King, Frozen, like
Yeah.
all these movies that have these themes that are a little outside of the ordinary Hollywood bullcrap that we see and that we're fed,
Yeah.
as well as like music media you were talking about
Yep.
with
Amy Grant.
Amy Grant. And I'll even bring up NF into that too, because
Yeah.
he has a lyric in his song that says this music isn't just for people who sit in the pews and pray at the churches,
Mhm.
in his song therapy session. But I will stand on the hill that I think that we resonate more with thematic evidences of really, really deep spiritual things.
Oh, yeah, for
And I think
sure.
that we were created that way.
Yeah, 100%. Like I mean, it says that, God's law is written on all of our hearts already. So Christian or not, there are certain things that we know that feel right, that things feel like the themes, like you're saying, the themes that we connect to, some things feel right. They feel like, yeah, this makes sense, or like, oh my gosh, I really resonate with this. Like there are hidden hidden reasons for that. And it's a continuation of God showing God's self in and around us, in different forms of media. Another one that I think of, one of my, like, somewhere in my top 10, is the movie Interstellar with Matthew
Of
McConaughey.
course.
Really great movie. It's got a lot of, it's very science heavy. It's easy to get lost in a lot of their explanations of things, and that's coming from an engineering major. But by the second or third watch, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing!" And there's a part in the movie, and it's actually a theme in the movie, where they are talking about the power of love. So I'm not, this one I'm not going to talk as much about, because you should really watch it and watch it for yourself. But uh Matthew McConaughey and another character are talking about love and human survival and the power of love. And Matthew McConaughey's character suggests that love might be a force that can bridge the gaps between dimensions and connect people across vast distances. And the rest of the movie continues to explore the emotional and metaphysical aspects of human relationships. And at the end of the movie, it's finding out that it's like, it's love, it's us, like, this is what it is. And the love for this also super popular movie to be saying that love, love is the key, or that love, though it isn't necessarily scientific, it can transcend natural law or what we think to be real. Like, what other kind of love transcends everything else? Like,
Love the Lord,
yeah,
the love of God.
yeah. And so it's just a continuation of all of this different media communicating a lot of the same thing. Like, we've talked a lot about these movies, a lot of them are around this idea of love, but I mean, that's kind of it. That's like the key. Like, that's when Jesus was asked for the most important commandments: love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Like, that's it right there.
I think the further you dive into the enormity of what you're referring to in the movie Interstellar, I think you can also get a view of like why humans were made in God's image.
Mm,
Because we're talking about, love does have that power of transcendence through dimensions, like
yeah,
interstellar
yeah,
love. You know what I mean?
yeah.
To, I guess, just quote the movie title, but that is a choice that we make. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's a choice that's so powerful. And
Yeah.
obviously, like, fiction and brilliant fiction. Like, seriously, Judd isn't kidding, guys. You need to go watch Interstellar. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But love is a choice.
Yeah.
Like, love is so much more than just a feeling.
Yeah. It's a action and a choice. My mom told me exactly that.
So in the movie, whenever no spoilers for this one, but he just, the love is the choice that he continually makes, and it
Yeah.
is the one that transcends. So like that, you
Yeah.
think that like you are bound to things that, and obviously it is fiction, but you think that you are bound to things of this world, and that your choice doesn't make anything. Like, I would say that that's a great example in fiction, that we are made in the image of God, because our
Yeah.
choice has humongous implications,
Oh
and
yeah.
that love travels,
hundred
and it
percent.
is sacrificial.
Yeah. Reminds me, even back when one of our favorite episodes from season 2, I think it was episode 4, Love, Logic, and Morality of Man. Towards the end of the episode, we talked about love and reason and logic and how they play into each other, and how love makes us do things that don't make sense, or in sacrifice. Like, if we think of the logical thing as self-preservation, love tells us, no, actually, self-preservation is not the best way to do
No,
this.
1 Corinthians 13 says love is not self-seeking.
Right. 100%. And, even if this is our last full episode, one of our last, well, not full, one of our last episodes of last season was talking about Advent and love. And, now we're even talking about love in media and in culture. But love comes up a lot, you know in whatever there is to talk about Jesus. Love is there. And it's still just so cool to see these movies, these books, these songs that are able to communicate this type of love, and also can help people who have had a false vision or bad relationship with the idea of love, and it can help show them different, healthier, real forms of love,
Well,
which is really cool.
in what it's supposed to be,
Right.
because it is very misconstrued.
Yeah.
I would even say, argument about, with a few dudes who I know last night, about love. And essentially the argument went, that I was talking to these guys, and they said, well, are you and Brooklyn, my fiance, going to sign a prenup? You know what a prenup is?
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel like that's not such a, like a, like, you know what I mean?
I get what you
It'll
mean.
put a
It's
bad feeling in my mouth. Why would I go in, despite how, and this could be controversial, but why would I go in despite how smart it is to do such a thing, just
Yeah,
in case
it's
anything bad ever happens.
yeah.
But like going in, trusting the Lord and having faith and confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we
Mhm.
do not see, and that is the future,
Yeah.
is telling me that like I am going to choose to love this woman forever. And just
Right.
their misunderstanding of what love is. Because they're like, well, people fall out of love all the time. I said, there's no falling out of love, there's stepping out of love.
Yeah.
I said, you choose to not do that anymore. It's a
Right.
choice. And I'm
Yeah.
never gonna do anything that's gonna like
For real.
so it, anyway, that was a dumb conversation that I had, but it just goes to show that the culture of love is so vastly misunderstood,
Yeah.
and people are so self-seeking, and people are so self-gratifying in the
Mhm.
aspect of preservation, like you said.
Yeah.
So I mean, that argument goes to show that people really just don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Especially our generation, we have a lot of misconceited, toxic ideas of what love is or what we want love to be like. And I mean, it breaks people's hearts. I mean, especially when you're like, I have similar opinions with that prenup thing of just like, so you're making a vow before like humanity and God to love this person forever, till death to us part, making vows, and God tells us, all right, well, convictions, covenants, like that's real stuff.
Till death
Yeah,
do us part.
we it's not really something that we break. And so if you go into it just saying like, God, I trust you, but just in case,
Yeah,
you don't follow through with this, like what?
yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Very, I mean, like from a secular worldview, I could definitely see it being a useful thing because
Financially, it's a smart decision.
I know that a lot of guys get totally cheated out of their like all of their stuff, but typically they're the ones that mess up. So
Mhm.
like in marital court and in the marital contract, a lot of times it is taken away from them. And maybe this is a caveat, but all of this just goes to show that like the biblical way of viewing love is the correct way of viewing love. And
Yeah.
50% of all marriages end in divorce because they don't understand that. Everything is
Yeah.
self-seeking.
Mhm.
And I will not, and I'm going to vow to not be self-seeking in
Right.
this, because the four Greek words for love that we use, phileo, agape,
Storge,
storge, and
Eros.
eros, those four, all of those derive from choice.
Yeah.
The choices that we make on a daily basis with our
Mhm.
significant others and just our family and people in general
Mhm.
keep us on the right track.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
no prenup needed.
Yeah. So, I mean, this episode has been a lot. We touched on a lot of things, but it seems like the main thing is just God's love can shine through in literally everything, in movies, in books, in nature, in other people's. Wherever there is something that is being communicated, God can make God's self known.
Of course.
And that's just a truly amazing thing. So, with that being said, this has been really great being back after Christmas break, being back in the podcast studio again. And also now being back with Jordan being engaged, which still trying to wrap my head around.
Yeah, I
But
know. I get to look at my ring here. Just kidding. I don't have a ring. I
you could
gave
get a ring
her the
pop.
ring. A ring pop. There you
Yeah.
go. Constantly be having a ring pop on my finger.
But anyway, so I want to thank you guys for listening again. Now you can follow us on our Instagram at Theo_thoughts.podcast for all the up-to-date details. We're on Apple, Spotify, Amazon. If they stream it, we're on it. And we are also still going to be on WGRN 89.5 Greenville University Radio Monday nights at 7 p.m. Central time. So if you want to listen like you're in the room, you can check that out live. And yeah, but we're so excited to be back in it. We got a lot of good stuff for this season.
For sure. And we are so excited to keep on going.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Rejuvenated, refueled,
Yep.
and ready to go.
Amen. All right, love y'all.
Love y'all.
God bless.